Orphan girl was beaten and abandoned. Lonely cowboy found her wild and didn't trust anyone until and die. Chapter 1. The Wild Child. The Texas sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty town of Cedar Ridge, casting long shadows between the weathered buildings. It was 1887, and the frontier was still raw, unforgiving to those who couldn't fight for their place in it. Tom McCready rode into town on his chestnut mare, Belle, dust coating his worn leather chaps, and the brim of his hat pulled low over weathered features. At 32, he'd lived more lifetimes than most men twice his age. The war had taken his youth, and the years since had carved lines around his grey eyes that spoke of too much solitude and too many losses. He'd heard rumors about the girl from other cowboys passing through, a wild child, they called her, living like an animal in the brush outside town. The local sheriff, a portly man named Henderson, had given up trying to catch her months ago. "She's more trouble than she's worth," Henderson had told Tom over whiskey at the saloon. "Steals food, frightens the horses, and disappears like smoke when anyone gets close. Been living rough since her uncle died last spring. Before that," he shook his head, "well, let's just say Jeremiah Polk wasn't known for his kindness." Tom had listened without comment, nursing his drink and watching the amber liquid swirl in the glass. He'd come to Cedar Ridge to deliver a small herd of cattle to the railroad, nothing more. But something about the story nagged at him as he made camp outside town that evening. The attack came just after midnight. Tom woke to the sound of his horses snorting nervously. Years of sleeping light had saved his life more than once, and tonight was no different. He rolled silently from his bedroll, Colt 45 in hand, and peered into the darkness beyond his dying campfire. A shadow moved near Belle, too small to be a man, too deliberate to be an animal. Tom remained perfectly still, watching as the figure worked to untie his horse's lead rope. The moonlight caught something, a tangle of dark hair, a thin frame dressed in what looked like rags. The girl. She was smaller than he'd expected, maybe 12 or 13, all sharp angles and nervous energy. Her movements were quick, efficient, like a wild creature that had learned to survive on instinct alone. She'd almost freed Belle when Tom stood up. "Easy there, little one." The girl spun, eyes wide with terror in the moonlight. For a moment, Tom saw something that made his chest tighten. Bruises faded to yellow on her thin arm, a wariness in her dark eyes that spoke of too much pain for someone so young. Then she ran. Tom didn't pursue. He'd learned patience in his years alone, and he recognized the look of a cornered animal. Instead, he built up his fire and waited. An hour later, she was back, creeping closer to the warmth. "You hungry?" he asked quietly, not looking at her directly. She froze like a deer caught in lamplight. Tom cut a piece of jerky from his supplies and tossed it halfway between them. "There's water in my canteen if you want it." "Eyes!" The girl stared at the food for a long moment before darting forward, snatching it and retreating to the shadows. Tom heard her chewing, quick and desperate, like someone who never knew when the next meal might come. "Name's Tom," he said to the darkness. "Tom McCready." Silence. "Don't suppose you've got a name?" More silence, but he could feel her watching him. Tom added another piece of wood to the fire and settled back against his saddle. "Well, I'll be here till morning. Fire's warm enough for two." When he woke at dawn, she was gone. But his spare blanket was missing, along with half his jerky and a tin of beans. Tom smiled grimly. At least she was smart enough to take what she needed. He spent the day in town, conducting his business and listening to more stories about the wild girl. Mrs. Patterson, who ran the general store, spoke of her with a mixture of pity and frustration. "I've seen her watching from the alley behind the store," she said, weighing out Tom's supplies. "Thin as a rail, that child. I left food out back a few times, but she never took it. Too proud, I suppose, or too scared." "What happened to her parents?" Tom asked. Mrs. Patterson's face darkened. "Dead these 5 years. Cholera took them both. She went to live with her uncle, Jeremiah Polk. That man," she shook her head. "Let's just say when he died, nobody mourned. But the girl, she disappeared right after. Been living wild ever since." That evening, Tom made camp in the same spot. Sure enough, the girl returned, staying just outside the circle of firelight. This time, he left food and water within her reach without a word. She took it, but remained in the shadows. "Thought you might come back," Tom said, stirring the fire. "Gets cold out here at night." The girl said nothing, but he could hear her breathing, quick and shallow like a frightened animal. "I'm heading north tomorrow," Tom continued. "Got a small ranch up near Amarillo. Could use some help with the horses." A twig snapped as she shifted position. "Just a thought," Tom said. "Doors always open if you change your mind." When morning came, she was gone again. But this time, she'd left something behind. A small wooden horse, carved with the crude skill of a child's hands. Tom picked it up, turning it over in his calloused fingers. It was rough, but there was something almost hopeful about it. He packed up his gear and prepared to leave Cedar Ridge. As he mounted Belle, he caught a glimpse of movement in the brush. The girl was there, watching from a distance, her dark hair wild around her face. Tom touched the brim of his hat in her direction and rode north, the wooden horse tucked safely in his saddlebag. Chapter 2: The Art of Patience. 3 weeks passed before Tom saw her again. He'd returned to Cedar Ridge to pick up supplies and check on a cattle deal when Sheriff Henderson approached him outside the saloon. "Your little friend's been causing trouble again," Henderson said, mopping sweat from his brow. "Broke into the Hendersons' cellar 2 nights ago, took some preserves and a loaf of bread." Tom raised an eyebrow. "The Hendersons? That's the family with the mean dog?" "Same one. Found her hiding in their root cellar when they went to check on the noise. Dog had her treed like a cat." Henderson spat into the dust. "She got away, but not before young Billy Henderson got a good look at her. Says she's got fresh bruises on her face." Tom's jaw tightened. "From the dog? That's what I thought at first, but..." Henderson looked uncomfortable. "Billy says it looked like someone hit her. Hand marks, you know. I thought her uncle was dead." "He is, but there's others in this town who don't take kindly to thieves, especially wild ones." Henderson's meaning was clear. Some folks have been talking about taking matters into their own hands. Tom felt a familiar anger building in his chest, the kind that had gotten him into trouble during the war. "What kind of talk?" "The kind that ends with a young girl hurt worse than she already is." Henderson met his eyes. "I ain't saying it's right, but I can't watch her every minute. And I can't keep her if I catch her, not without somewhere to put her." That night, Tom made camp in a different spot, closer to town and near the creek where he'd heard she sometimes went for water. He built a larger fire than usual and made enough food for 2, then settled in to wait. She came just after sunset, moving like a ghost through the mesquite and sage. But something was different this time. She was hurt, favoring her left leg, and there was a fresh cut on her lip. "They got you, didn't they?" Tom said quietly. The girl froze at the edge of the firelight, her eyes wide and frightened. In the flickering glow, Tom could see the bruises Henderson had mentioned, finger marks on her thin arms, a swollen cheek. "Come on," he said, patting the ground beside him. "Let's have a look at that leg." She shook her head violently and took a step back. "I'm not going to hurt you," Tom said, his voice gentle but firm. "But if you don't get that looked at, it's going to get infected. Out here, that can kill you." For a moment, they stared at each other across the fire. Tom could see the war playing out in her eyes, the desperate need for help, battling against years of learned fear. "I've got some whiskey," he said. "It'll sting, but it'll clean it proper." The girl limped closer, close enough that he could see the tear in her ragged dress where something had caught her leg. It was a nasty gash, probably from barbed wire, and it was already showing signs of infection. "This is going to hurt," Tom warned, pulling out his bottle of whiskey. She bit her lip, but didn't pull away as he cleaned the wound. She was tougher than most grown men Tom had known, taking the pain without so much as a whimper. "There," he said, tearing a strip from his spare shirt to bandage the cut. "That should hold it." The girl looked down at the clean white bandage, then back at Tom. For the first time, there was something other than fear in her eyes, confusion, maybe even a flicker of gratitude. "You got a name?" Tom asked as he put away the whiskey. She shook her head. "Everyone's got a name," Tom said. "Even if it's just something they call themselves." The girl was quiet for a long moment, then whispered something so soft, Tom almost missed it. "What was that?" "Lily," she said, barely audible. "My mama used to call me Lily." It was the first word she'd spoken to him, and Tom felt something shift in his chest. "Lily's a good name," he said. "Pretty name for a pretty girl." She flinched at the word pretty, and Tom cursed himself for his clumsiness. Of course, she'd been hurt by people who'd used her appearance against her. "I mean, it's a strong name," he corrected. "Lilies are tough flowers. They can grow just about anywhere." Lily nodded slowly, and Tom saw a ghost of a smile cross her face. "You hungry, Lily?" She nodded again, and Tom shared his meal with her, watching as she ate with the desperate efficiency of someone who'd learned to eat fast, or not at all. When she finished, she looked up at him with something like wonder, as if she couldn't believe someone had given her food without expecting something in return. "You can't keep living like this," Tom said gently. "Those men who hurt you, they're not going to stop, and winter's coming. You won't survive out here when the cold hits." Lily's eyes filled with fear again, and she started to rise. "Wait," Tom said quickly. "I'm not saying you have to decide tonight, but think about it. I've got a small ranch north of here. It's quiet, peaceful, lots of horses that need tending." "I don't know nothing about horses," Lily whispered. "Horses are easy," Tom said. "Easier than people anyway. They don't lie, and they don't hurt you for no reason. You just have to learn to listen to them." Lily stared into the fire, and Tom could see her thinking. Finally, she looked up at him. "You really got horses?" 12 of them, Tom said. "Some are gentle as lambs, others are wild as the wind, but they all need someone to care for them. And you'd let me help? I'd be grateful for the help," Tom said. "Gets lonely out there sometimes." Lily nodded slowly, and Tom saw something he hadn't expected: hope. It was fragile, tentative, like a flower trying to bloom in hostile ground, but it was there. Can I think about it?" she asked. "Take all the time you need," Tom said, "but don't wait too long. Winter's coming, and I worry about you out here alone." When morning came, Lily was gone again, but this time she'd left something different. A small pile of smooth stones arranged in a careful pattern. Tom studied them for a moment, then smiled. It wasn't much, but it was communication. It was trust. He packed up his gear and headed back to his ranch, but not before leaving a note weighted down with stones near where she'd been sleeping. "The offer stands, Tom." Chapter 3. The First Step. Tom didn't expect to see Lily again for weeks, maybe months. So when he found her huddled behind his barn 3 days later, shivering in the pre-dawn cold, he was surprised by the relief that flooded through him. "Lily?" She looked up from where she'd been sleeping in the hay, her dark eyes wide with exhaustion and something that might have been regret. Her leg was worse. He could see dark stains on the bandage where infection had set in. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered. Tom dismounted from Belle and approached slowly, the way he would a spooked horse. "What happened?" "They came looking for me," she said, her voice barely audible. "3 men. They said they were going to teach me a lesson about stealing." Tom's hands clenched into fists. "Did they hurt you?" Lily shook her head quickly. "I ran, but they burned my shelter, destroyed everything." She looked down at her hands. "I ain't got nowhere else." "You're safe now," Tom said, meaning it more than he'd meant anything in years. "Nobody's going to hurt you here." She looked up at him with such desperate hope that it nearly broke his heart. "You mean it? You'll really let me stay? For as long as you want," Tom said. "Come on, let's get you inside. That leg needs proper tending." The ranch house was small but comfortable, built of sturdy logs with a wide front porch that faced the sunrise. Tom led Lily inside, noting how she stayed close to the walls, her eyes darting toward the windows and doors like she was mapping escape routes. "Sit here," he said, guiding her to a chair by the kitchen table. "Let me look at that leg." The infection was worse than he'd thought. The wound was hot and angry, red streaks spreading up her calf. Tom cleaned it again with whiskey, watching Lily bite her lip to keep from crying out. "This is bad," he said honestly. "You need proper medicine." "No doctors," Lily said quickly, panic in her voice. "Please, no doctors." Tom studied her face, seeing the terror there. "Bad experience?" She nodded, unable to speak. "All right," Tom said. "No doctors, but I've got some things that might help. Used to doctor horses and cattle. People aren't so different." He made a poultice from herbs his Cherokee friend Running Bear had taught him about, binding it carefully to her leg. Then he made her soup from beef bones and vegetables, watching as she ate with the same desperate hunger he'd seen before. "When's the last time you had a proper meal?" he asked. Lily thought for a moment. "Before Uncle Jeremiah died," she said quietly. He didn't like to waste food on me." Tom felt that familiar anger rise in his chest. "Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore. There's always food here." After she'd eaten, Tom showed her to the small room that had been his brother's before the war. It was simple: a bed, a chest of drawers, a window that looked out over the pasture where his horses grazed. "This is yours," he said, "for as long as you want it." Lily stared at the bed as if she'd never seen one before. "I can sleep in the barn," she said quickly. "You need rest and warmth," Tom said firmly. "The barn's for horses, not young ladies." She looked up at him with confusion. "I ain't no lady." "You are to me," Tom said, "and you'll be treated like one in this house." That first night, Tom woke to the sound of crying. He found Lily huddled in the corner of her room, still fully dressed, the blankets untouched on the bed. "Lily, what's wrong?" She looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I'll leave. I can't sleep in there." "Too soft?" Tom asked gently, understanding more than she knew. She nodded. "It don't feel right. I keep thinking someone's going to come." "That's understandable," Tom said. "You've been sleeping rough for months. Your body doesn't know how to trust safety yet." He fetched some blankets from the linen closet and made her a bed on the floor by the window, where she could see outside and feel the familiar draft of open air. "Better?" he asked. Lily nodded, curling up in the blankets like a small animal. "Thank you," she whispered. "No need to thank me," Tom said. "This is your home now." The next morning, Tom found her outside before dawn, sitting on the porch steps and watching the horses in the pasture. She was perfectly still, but he could see the tension in her thin shoulders. "They're beautiful," she said without looking at him. Tom settled beside her, noting how she didn't flinch away. "That's Star," he said, pointing to a grey mare. "She's gentle as a lamb. And that big bay is Thunder. He's got spirit, but he's got heart too." "They look peaceful," Lily said. "Horses are good judges of character," Tom said. "They know when someone means them harm, and they know when someone's got a good heart." Lily looked at him sideways. "How do you know I got a good heart?" "Because you're sitting here worried about whether you deserve kindness," Tom said simply. "Bad people don't worry about that." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the horses graze in the golden morning light. Finally, Lily spoke again. "I ain't never been around horses much," she said, "but I'd like to learn." "We'll start slow," Tom said. "First thing is learning to read them, understanding what they're telling you without words. Like people?" "Easier than people," Tom said. "Horses don't lie." Over the following days, Tom began Lily's education in the ways of horses. He started her with Star, the gentlest mare in his string, teaching her how to approach, how to read the horse's body language, how to earn trust through patience and consistency. "Don't look her in the eyes at first," he instructed. "That's a challenge in horse language. Let her see you, but don't stare." Lily nodded, extending her hand slowly. Star sniffed her fingers, then allowed a gentle touch on her muzzle. "She likes you," Tom observed. "How can you tell?" "See how her ears are forward, how she's leaning into your touch. She's telling you she feels safe with you." Lily smiled, the first real smile Tom had seen from her. "She's so soft." "That's because she's well cared for," Tom said. "Horses respond to kindness just like people do." As the days passed, Tom watched Lily begin to heal, not just her infected leg, but something deeper. She began to eat regularly, to sleep through the night, to move without constantly checking over her shoulder. The wild, hunted look in her eyes started to fade, replaced by something tentative but real: peace. But Tom knew it would take more than food and shelter to truly heal the wounds that had been inflicted on her. Trust, once broken, was a fragile thing to rebuild. Chapter 4. Breaking Through. 2 months into Lily's stay at the ranch, Tom woke to find her gone. Her bed was empty, the window open, and his heart sank with the familiar weight of abandonment. He'd been here before, people leaving without warning, taking pieces of his heart with them. But as he stepped onto the porch, he saw her in the pasture, standing perfectly still among the horses. Star was beside her, the mare's head lowered as Lily stroked her neck. The sight was so peaceful, so right, that Tom felt his chest tighten with an emotion he couldn't name. "Morning," he called softly. Lily turned, and Tom saw something in her face that hadn't been there before: contentment. "She was calling to me," she said simply. "I could hear her from my room, calling to you." "Not with sound," Lily said, struggling for words. "With feeling." She was lonely. Tom studied the girl and the horse, seeing something pass between them that was deeper than training or simple affection. "You've got a gift," he said. "What kind of gift?" "The kind that can't be taught," Tom said. Some people are just born understanding horses. Over the following weeks, Tom watched Lily's confidence grow. She had an instinctive way with the animals that amazed him, a gentleness that seemed to calm even the most skittish of his horses. But it was more than that. She seemed to understand what they needed, often before they knew it themselves. How did you know Thunder was favoring his front left? Tom asked one afternoon, after Lily had pointed out the stallion's slight limp. He told me, Lily said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He told you. Not with words, she said, frustrated by the limitations of language. With the way he moves, the way he holds his head. He's hurting, but he's trying to hide it. Tom examined Thunder's hoof and found a small stone lodged in the frog. You're right, he said, working it free. How long have you been able to do this? Lily shrugged. Always, I guess. Animals don't lie like people do. The comment hit Tom harder than he expected. This child, barely 13, had learned not to trust human nature, but could read the honest communication of animals. It said everything about what her short life had been like. Not all people lie, he said gently. Lily gave him a look that was far too old for her years. Most do. I don't, Tom said. I never have. Not to you. She studied his face with those dark, serious eyes. No, she said finally, you don't. It was a breakthrough, small but significant. For the first time, Lily had acknowledged that she trusted him, at least a little. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Lily spoke more than she ever had before. My mama used to say I was special, she said quietly. She said I could hear things other people couldn't. What kind of things? Hurt things, scared things, animals mostly, but sometimes. She trailed off. Sometimes what? Sometimes people too. She looked at him sideways. I can hear it in you sometimes, the hurt. Tom felt his chest tighten. What kind of hurt? The kind that comes from being alone too long, Lily said. The kind that makes you wonder if you're worth caring about. The accuracy of her observation took Tom's breath away. You're very perceptive. I had to be, Lily said simply. With Uncle Jeremiah, I had to know when he was getting angry, before he knew it himself. It was the only way to get away before. She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. Tom understood. He's dead now, Tom said firmly. He can't hurt you anymore. I know, Lily said, but sometimes I still wake up thinking he's coming for me. That's normal, Tom said. Fear doesn't die easy, especially when it's been your companion for so long. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the first stars appear in the darkening sky. Tom, Lily said eventually. Yes? Why did you help me? Really? Tom considered the question. Because you reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What's that? That there's still good in this world worth fighting for. Lily looked at him with confusion. I ain't good. I'm a thief. I steal things. I lie. You survive, Tom interrupted. You do what you have to do to stay alive. That's not evil, Lily. That's human. But the things I've done don't define who you are, Tom said firmly. Well, what defines you is what you choose to do now that you're safe. Lily was quiet for a long moment. What if I don't know how to choose good things? Then you learn, Tom said. Same way you're learning about horses. With patience, practice, and people who believe in you. You believe in me. I do, Tom said without hesitation. More than you know. That night, for the first time since arriving at the ranch, Lily slept in the bed instead of on the floor. When Tom checked on her in the morning, she was curled up under the quilts, her face peaceful in sleep. It was another small victory, but Tom was learning that with Lily, small victories were the most important kind. Chapter 5. Finding Home Spring arrived early that year, bringing with it a warmth that seemed to thaw something deep inside both Tom and Lily. The ranch was coming alive, new foals in the pasture, green grass sprouting after the winter rains, and a sense of renewal that neither of them had felt in years. Lily had been with Tom for 6 months now, and the transformation was remarkable. The wild, frightened girl who'd appeared in his barn had grown into a confident young woman with a gift for horses that surpassed anything Tom had ever seen. She could gentle a bronco with nothing but patience and intuition, and his horses followed her around like devoted pets. But more than that, she'd begun to heal in ways that went beyond the physical. She laughed now, Not often, but when she did, it was like hearing music after years of silence. She'd started wearing the dresses Tom had bought her, though she still preferred men's work clothes when dealing with the horses, and she'd begun to talk about the future, something she'd never done before. "I've been thinking," she said one morning as they worked together to break in a new colt. "Maybe I could learn to read proper." Tom looked up from the fence rail where he was perched, watching her work with the young horse. "You can't read?" Lily shook her head, her cheeks coloring with embarrassment. "Uncle Jeremiah said it was a waste of time for girls. Said I was too stupid anyway." "Your uncle was wrong about a lot of things," Tom said firmly, "and I'd be happy to teach you." "Really?" "Really. In fact, I've got some books that might interest you. There's one about horses and another about a girl who—" "About a girl?" Lily interrupted, her eyes lighting up. "About a girl who overcomes great obstacles to find her place in the world," Tom said. "I think you'd like it." That evening, Tom brought out his small collection of books, watching as Lily handled them with the reverence most people reserved for precious artifacts. Her fingers traced the worn leather covers, and she held them as if they might break. "I never held a real book before," she admitted. "Then we'll start with the basics," Tom said, opening a simple primer. "Letters first, then words, then sentences." Lily proved to be a quick learner, hungry for knowledge in the same way she'd once been hungry for food. Within weeks, she was reading simple sentences, and within months, she was working her way through the horse training manual Tom had given her. "Listen to this," she said one evening, reading aloud from the book. "The horse is a mirror to your soul. Sometimes you might not like what you see. Sometimes you will. What do you think that means?" Tom asked. Lily considered the question seriously. "I think it means horses show us who we really are. When I'm with them, I feel peaceful, like maybe I'm not as broken as I thought." "You were never broken," Tom said gently, "just hurt." "There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Broken things can't be fixed," Tom said. "Hurt things can heal, given time and care." It was around this time that Tom noticed other changes in Lily. She'd started humming while she worked, soft melodies that seemed to calm the horses even more than her natural gift. She'd begun to take pride in her appearance, braiding her long dark hair and keeping her clothes clean and mended, and she'd started calling the ranch home without realizing it. "I need to go to home and check on Thunder," she'd say, or "I left my hat at home." Each time she said it, Tom felt a warm glow in his chest. But it was the arrival of strangers that truly showed how much Lily had changed. Tom was shoeing a horse when he heard the riders approaching. 3 men, dusty from travel, with the hard look of men who lived by violence. Tom recognized the type: drifters, troublemakers, the kind who took what they wanted and left destruction in their wake. "You Tom McCready?" the leader asked, a thin man with cold eyes and a scar across his left cheek. "I am," Tom said, not stopping his work, but keeping his hands near his gun. "What can I do for you?" "Heard you got a girl here. Young one, dark hair. Been causing trouble down in Cedar Ridge." Tom's blood ran cold. "Don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do," the man said with a cruel smile. "Half-wild thing. Steals anything that ain't nailed down. We're here to collect her." "Collect her for what?" "For the reward," another man said. "Seems some folks down south are willing to pay good money for her return." Tom set down his hammer and stood slowly. "She's not going anywhere." "That ain't your choice to make," the leader said. "She's wanted for theft, vagrancy, and Lord knows what else. We're taking her back to face justice." "What you're talking about isn't justice," Tom said, his voice deadly quiet. "It's revenge." The tension in the air was thick enough to cut when Lily appeared around the corner of the barn, leading Star by a rope halter. Tom's heart lurched as he saw her freeze, recognizing the men. "Well, well," the leader said. "There she is. Come along, girl, time to go." But instead of the frightened, feral creature these men expected, they found themselves facing a young woman who stood tall and looked them in the eye. "I'm not going anywhere with you," Lily said, her voice steady despite the fear Tom could see in her eyes. "You don't have a choice," the leader said, dismounting and walking toward her. That's when Tom stepped between them, his hand resting on his gun. "Actually, she does." "You willing to die for this little thief?" the man asked. "I'm willing to die for this young lady," Tom corrected. "And if you take one more step toward her, you'll find out just how willing." The 3 men exchanged glances, clearly not expecting this level of resistance. "This ain't over," the leader said finally. "We'll be back with the law." "You do that," Tom said, "but you'll find the law ain't as interested in persecution as you are." After the men rode away, Tom turned to find Lily staring at him with wonder. "You would have fought them," she said. "All three of them." "Of course I would have," Tom said. "Your family." It was the first time he'd said it out loud, and the words hung in the air between them like a promise. "Family?" Lily whispered. "If you'll have me," Tom said. "I know I can't replace what you lost, but—" He never got to finish the sentence. Lily threw herself into his arms, holding him tight enough to bruise, crying tears that seemed to wash away years of pain and fear. "I thought I'd never have a family again," she sobbed against his shoulder. "Well, you do now," Tom said, holding her just as tightly, "and I'm not going anywhere." That night, they sat on the porch as they had so many times before, but everything was different now. The words had been spoken, the bond acknowledged. They were no longer just a broken cowboy and a damaged girl finding solace in each other's company. They were family. "Tom?" Lily said as the stars came out. "Yes, I love you too." Tom felt his eyes fill with tears. "I love you too, daughter." It was the first time he'd called her that, and the first time she'd had a father who meant it. Chapter 6. The Promise of Tomorrow. 1 year after Lily first appeared behind Tom's barn, the ranch was transformed. What had once been a quiet operation run by a solitary man had become a thriving enterprise managed by a family. Lily's gift with horses had made them the most sought-after trainers in 3 counties, and their reputation for gentling even the most difficult animals had spread throughout Texas. But more than the success of the ranch, it was the healing of 2 broken souls that truly marked the transformation. Tom watched from the porch as Lily worked with a young stallion that